Well, hello everybody, this is Roberto Luti from the Playing for Change band, and welcome in my house, which is on the hills around the city of Livorno. Livorno is on the seaside of Tuscany in Italy, and I live in the middle of the forest. It's actually very nice and wild around here, but it's bad weather outside, a lot of wind and a lot of rain. Otherwise I would have shot the video outside, but maybe another time. So today we're gonna talk about slide guitar, and which is mostly what I play, and also therefore open tunings, which is mostly what I play. And I do that on acoustic guitars and electric guitars, but today I've got my old National guitar. This is an old guitar from 1931. It's made of steel, and like I say, the brand is National. National still exists nowadays, but they started making guitars back in the 20s, if I'm correct. And they got popular back then because they were louder. The type of construction inside and the fact that they use metal makes them louder, so they could actually match the volume of like brass instruments like saxophone and sousaphones and trumpets. It was an expensive guitar, and a lot of musicians started using it. A lot of street musicians too. A lot of performers, I guess, back then used to perform on the streets too, or otherwise they didn't have amplification. Definitely, we're talking about the 20s and the 30s. So, using this guitar, they could have enough volume, not only to match the other instruments, but to like involve the audience more, make them dance and have a good time. And a lot of blues musicians actually started using it back then. And also back then, among the blues musicians in Mississippi and Texas and Louisiana and other states, slide guitar, the using of the slide guitar style and open tunings was common, very common. And I fell in love with it as a young boy listening to the records. I fell in love with it, so I started, I wanted to learn that style. So basically, this is a slide. It's actually a tube, like a little tube made of glass. It can be made out of different materials. I guess brass and steel, metal, other kinds of metal are very common and popular. And actually, they don't break, so that's a very good choice. But this is glass. I prefer glass. I prefer the sound of glass. It's not that it sounds better, it just sounds different, and I prefer glass. So basically, it just gives you an effect. Instead of pressing the strings with your fingers, you just slide on it with this tool, with a bottleneck. And you don't press the string, you just, you sit the bottleneck on it. So instead of like, if I want to play this note, normally I would go with my finger and do this. Maybe a little vibrato. With a slide, it's a different sound, different effect. You can vibrate fast, you can vibrate slow. So this is basically the basic principle of it. You kind of, you basically play the same things that you would play normally with your fingers, but instead of pressing the strings with your bare fingers, you just sit the slide on it, and it gives you this sound. You can play single notes, but if you are playing in open tuning like I am, and we're going to talk about open tunings right away, but so if you play in open tunings, you can also play more strings together, and it sounds it sounds actually musical. If I did this in standard tuning, standard guitar tuning, it wouldn't sound musical. It would sound kind of dissonant, you know. Because what is open tuning? Open tuning, basically when you strum the guitar open like this, you are actually playing a full chord. That's not the case with standard tuning. If you strum a guitar in standard tuning, it will, you know, it's not actually a full major chord. It might be some kind of chord, but it's, you know, it doesn't sound as clean and somewhat musical and recognizable. This is a D. My guitar is right now, it's tuned in open D, which is very common. I would say that the most common tunings, most common open tunings are open D and open G. Open E and open A are very common, but they're basically the same. Open D, you know, open E is just open D but one step above, and open A, it's open G but one step above. So open D is starting from the low strings. This is a D, this is a A, then you have a D again, then you have a F sharp, and then you have a A and a D. All together they make a full natural D major chord. So this allows you to play, like, you know, I can play other chords just by sliding the bottleneck on the whole 6 strings together. You know, like this is actually a G chord, this is a A chord, and on the 12th fret, so an octave, you have again the D chord. And playing in open tuning, it just gives you different ideas compared to standard tunings. You know, if you start messing around with open tuning, you get different ideas, different inspiration. You can play the same chords but with different fingering and different positions, and it just sounds different and it's inspiring. And you know, I fell in love with that kind of sound. And also, it allows you to play a lot of open strings while you are playing other stuff around the neck. And I use that a lot. I'll show you that again. So basically, I'm keeping the bass. And this is a D, right? I'm playing in D. This is just like a... I'm just keeping a groove on the D strings. The low D and the mid D. And then I can play melodies around it. And this style of playing, it was, you know, it's still common, definitely. It's very common, you know, in the blues, folk, country tradition. And so right now I was keeping a groove on the low strings, but you can use the open strings in other ways. It's not just about keeping the groove. For example, you can move around chords too. For example, the classic blues chord changes are in D. If you're playing in the key of D, it would be D, G, D, A, G, D. And if you're playing open tuning, is very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's, you know, more accessible to, still need to practice a lot, but it's more accessible to play on all the different chords. We're talking about 3 chords, D, G, and A, and still do melodies on each position. Like, if I'll show you, it's more understandable. For example, just a regular blues. So we're gonna move from D to G, back to D, A, G, and D. So I'm gonna keep those root chords going on. I'm not gonna play full chords. I'm just gonna, you know, play maybe the bass notes of the chord. So it gives you, anyway, the sound and the feeling of the changes. And I'm gonna play melodies through it. So, for example, now we're gonna go to G. We are back in D. Now we're gonna go up to A. So obviously you can do stuff like this in standard tuning too, but in open tuning it just sounds different, and I will say it's somewhat more accessible. Maybe if you have the slide on your finger, you know, it definitely, to me, open tuning makes more sense. And also there is another reason why open tuning makes more sense with the slide than standard tuning, and it's kind of easier and more accessible to learn and understand, because with the slide, when you, with the bottleneck, when you slide on the strings, you make all the strings vibrate, you know. And I'll show you. Basically, if I want to play this note and I want to do it with a slide, that's what I'm going to do. Now what happened? You make, since, you know, with the slide you cover all the whole neck, so you touch all the strings, then you make them vibrate. And in standard tuning, this vibration, you know, they are often dissonant, you know, they're not very musical. In open tuning, you know, they are more harmonious and more, they make more sense together. But this suggests me to talk about one very important thing about playing slide, which is you have to mute. You don't have to mute, but you have, I would say that you should learn how to mute the strings that you don't want to play. The strings that you don't want to sound, then you should learn how to mute. I'll show you. So this is what I just did. But in fact, I just wanted to play this note. So to achieve a clean sound, this is what I'm gonna do. And what I just did, with this hand, so with this finger, I muted the strings that I didn't, all the other strings that I didn't want them to vibrate, to play. I just wanted to play the second string, starting from the high strings, the second one. That's the only one that I want to play. So I mute the other ones. I think every guitar player has their way to do this. I basically only use this hand, and you know, I use the thumb a lot. For example, in this case, I'm muting the the low 4 strings with my thumb, and I'm muting the very high string with this finger, and so I can have a clean sound. But you can also use these fingers, which are behind the slide, you know. So I don't think it's as effective, and to me it just doesn't come natural, you know. It kind of comes awkward, because also I like to use this finger for other stuff, like so it's all about control. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and you gotta find your way. And to me, it's very important that you have control over the sound that you want. Like you know, if you make a sound, it's because you want to make the sound. If you play that note in a certain way, it's because that's what you want. In certain cases, I want to make my note dirty, and so I don't mute the strings. I just go for it, and it's gonna sound raw and kind of dirty and rough, and that's what I want. But I do that because I can choose that, because I also know how to play the note in a clean way, you know. So to me, that's important. Actually, this is not just about playing slide guitar, but in general, when you play an instrument, you should like be conscious of what do you know, the sound that you want, the tone that you want, the note, how you want to play the note, what kind of expression, what kind of intention you want to give to the note. To me, that's very, 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 very important. And that's a process that, to me, it just never ends, because your music and the passion, the expression that you want to put on the note changes with the way your inside are changing, you know, with your life, basically, you know. Like when you're 20, you want to play in a certain way. When you're 30, when you're 40, then or it depends on what you're going through. You know, if you're going through maybe a hard time, then you want to play in a certain way. If you are actually feeling good, everything is good, happy time, then you want to play in a different way. So the more you learn about yourself, the more you go through life, the more you're gonna learn about about playing your instrument. That's what makes all the different guitar players, to me, sounds different. It's not really about the guitar, it's not about the amplifier that they use, it's about the fingers and the intention that they have. When you master that, basically, like how to express your intention through your finger and your instruments, when you start mastering that, that's when you become yourself as a player. And so I can play the same note in different way, you know. I can go I can go or, for example, another thing, you can slide like this or you can slide like this. For example, let's change note, because that kind of got old. Maybe up here. You can vibrate slow, you can vibrate fast. I said that before, but I'm going to repeat. With the slide, you don't press the strings, you just sit the slide on it. There is a slight pressure that you put on it, and that's also takes a lot of, takes control on it, because that also change the little vibe of the note, Right now I'm pressing. Now I'm not pressing, now I'm just barely like sitting the slide on it. You can hear that it's, one is more kind of like acid and kind of, I don't know, angry sounding, one it's more actually gentle and sweet. So, like I said, to me all this is very important, to give that note a color, an emotion, an expression that you actually have inside. That's, that's what you wanna, that's what you wanna give, and and you know how to do it, because you spend so much time on your instruments, trying different things, that you achieve, that you master that kind of control and knowledge of how to, to me it's like a circle or something. You hear something, like when you are playing with other musicians, it's all about listening to each other. What you play depends on what they are playing, and also vice versa. What they're playing depends on what you're playing. So it's all about listening and connecting, and kind of like, do like this, with the different instruments and different personalities and different energies, and it becomes one thing. Once you connect, it becomes one thing. And it's so what happened. I listen, I hear something, it inspires me, and it goes through me. So it goes through what I'm, it goes through everything that I'm about. My history, my life, my passions. The music that I listen to, the music that I love, the music that I grew up with, and the music that I'm listening to nowadays. It goes through everything. And it suggests me something on my instruments, and I know with my hand, I know how to do it, and I know my gear, how to, I know how to express what I have inside through my fingers, through my instruments, through my gear. It's all about knowledge, and it takes just experience, time, passion, and practice, definitely, and a lot of listening. So growing up, the guitar players that I fell in love with, we're still talking about slide guitar, so I'm gonna focus on that, were Blind Willie Johnson, Robert Johnson, Booker White, and these three guitar players, they're from the 20s and 30s, from the 30s actually. Booker White probably from the 40s too. And they were recording during those years, and they were playing a lot in open tuning and with the slide guitar. They have completely different styles, so if you listen to them, they will definitely sound very different from each other to you. So I'm talking about Booker White, Robert Johnson, and Blind Willie Johnson. Booker White is more rhythmic, he uses open strings a lot. Very powerful. Blind Willie Johnson is rhythmic, but in a different way, more on the bass, on the two bass notes that I was doing earlier, and melodic, Robert Johnson, he actually played a lot in open G. And he's got this old vibe about him, you know, kind of like dark and haunting, beautiful. But he's also very rhythmic too, you know, like obviously I can't play exactly like them, and not even close, you know, but I'm not really interested in that, you know. I'm interested in playing like myself, so I just listen to them a lot, and I try to learn a lot of their stuff, but then I want to play what comes to me. So I try to put all the things that I learned from them, I just kind of like mix them up inside, and they come out all mixed together, obviously. But growing up, there was another guitar player, slide guitar player that really inspired me, and that was Ray Cooder. So Ray Cooder was actually started recording in the 60s, and I will say the records that I love the most, that inspired me the most, are the one from in the 70s that he did in the 70s, or maybe late yes, I will guess in the 70s. And yeah, he played a lot in open D, open G too. And he's got a lot of chords. He's got a whole style that includes also a lot of chords and voicings that I really love. And he's got a special touch, a special tone that he gets with his slide guitar. So I would say that growing up, these are the two guitar players that inspired me the most. Then, later in the years, there were definitely more. And I moved in Louisiana, I moved in New Orleans when I was 22 years old, and I lived there 10 years. And a lot of local guitar players inspired me a lot. And I want to name, I hope I don't forget anybody, but the first one that I saw was Jeremy Lyons, which I love. I saw him the very first night I was in New Orleans. And then John Mooney, big inspiration on me. Anders Osborne, Augie Jr. Rodola, all huge inspiration. And also want to name other one, definitely Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, not only the slide, just the whole like vibe and touch, and you know, the thing. Yeah, Corey Harris, lots of guitar players. I basically love all of them. I also want to name Kenny Halliday from New Orleans. And yeah, nowadays there is some great like guitar player, definitely Derek Trucks. Wow, amazing. So, and all of them, they have a different, you know, they are all playing the same style, but all of them sound so different. It's amazing. And that's what I was talking about earlier. You know, it's about, you know, just letting what you have inside out, and not trying to sound like anybody else. At the beginning, yes, you know, there is that guitar player, they're like, wow, I want to just sound like him. At the beginning, that's very common, you know, like when young people start to learn an instrument, but then you just kind of like want to mix everything you learn inside with, and you know, and let your sound, let your tone, let your phrases, you know, let your things come out, you know. Just trust what comes to you, you know. It will sound different from Derek Trucks, it will sound different from John Moon, it will sound different from Robert Johnson, but it's you. You know, it doesn't sound, it's not, if it sounds not as good, it's just because maybe you don't have enough, you know, experience or practice, but it will sound like you, and that's what you know, you are giving what you have inside, which is, I think, it's the most precious thing that you can give on an instrument. And so let's talk about how to play slide guitar. Basically, like I say, I'm in open tuning, so the same things that you play in standard tuning, you transpose them to open tuning. You can play exactly the same things. It will have different positions, you know. You will put your fingers in different positions, different places, but you can do exactly the same stuff, the same chords, even complicated chords, jazz chords and everything. You can do the same scales, but they will not only look different but also sound different. And also you can use the open strings. So if you're playing the pentatonic, let's keep it simple and in the blues world. If you're playing the pentatonic scale, which is the basic scale, you know, when you start learning how to play, you know, this style of, you know, blues music, blues guitar, you usually start with the pentatonic scale. So you can just transpose that to open tuning. For example, in open D, in the key of D, in the tuning of open D, this is a pentatonic scale. Then I can use open strings though. And you can play some of these notes or all of them, it's your choice. You gotta have control over that with the slide. So I can do. There is not a rule about it. You know, it's up to what you want to express, you know, the melodic line that you have in mind and that you have inside, you know, it's about that. You know, that's gonna tell you if you want to play one note with a slide or without. And like I say, you can play chords. This is a D. There is obviously many different ways you can play a D. This is also a D. This is a D. This is a D. And this is a D. So those are all simple major chords. You can play sevenths. That was all D, D7s. And you can play like nice, like more like finer chords. I don't know, how would you? So I would suggest that just to, you know, keep a guitar in open tuning, keep a guitar in standard tuning, and transpose what you're doing on standard tuning, just start to transpose it on open tuning. You will notice that you have to like, you know, you have to move one finger up 2 steps or down 2 steps or maybe one step. And then you start finding things, scales and chords in open tuning, and that is going to open up new sounds, new inspirations to you. And you know, you keep the slide, you can keep it in different fingers, but to me the best is the pinky, because then you have these 3 fingers together, and with the thumb is 4, that they're all like one next to each other, and you can do different things with it. At first, maybe like keeping it on this finger, then it's kind of like makes you feel more secure, you know, because you can hold it like this. But to me, it's better just to start right away on the pinky. But that, like, again, that's not a rule, really. And that's just a suggestion. And what else? For a beginner, actually, I think it's a lot of fun with a slide guitar, with a guitar in open tuning, just to play a simple song that moves around the 3 typical chords. So D, G, D, A, G, and D. And this is very easy, and it's fun. And before going to that song, I just want to say something about, you know, this hand. For the style that I play, it's better not to have the, I think, at least that's how I feel comfortable. I'd rather not have the classic, the regular guitar pick. I just rather use, you know, my fingers. Sometimes I have a pick that is called a thumb pick, that you can just put on your thumb, and I'm just gonna go get it and show you. So this is a thumb pick, and it gives, instead of playing the strings with your finger, with your thumb, you can use this pick. It gives us that it's kind of brighter, more attack. You can play a little faster, I guess. You can do like a... But I much rather use, you know, I think I much prefer the sound of, you know, the natural finger. It's warmer and bigger, you know, and if I want to like do like little things like that, then yeah, I practice in different ways. You know, I rather practice more and just be able to do everything with my bare finger instead of using picks. And I like to, with a lot of practice, you can master to have these fingers independent, to move these fingers independently from each other, and independently from what this hand is doing. So you can do a little arpeggios, you know, like just gotta start practicing, you know. At first it's gonna be hard, and you know, you feel like the same things that you do with this hand, you have to do with this hand, you know, the same, you know, you move this, you feel like you have to move this in the same way, and it seems very hard, and it seems you're never gonna get there, but actually you will get there, you know. Just have faith, have good time, because that's, to me, that's the main thing, you know. It's just having fun and nice time just playing your instrument, and it's not gonna feel like you're practicing, it's gonna feel like you're actually playing and doing something that it's very enjoyable. And so this is a very simple song, but nice. It involves a little arpeggio with this hand, and you're just gonna slide the bottleneck on the guitar, just full, covering the full neck, and moving from the chords of D, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret, G, D again, then A, G, and D again. Okay, one more thing with the slide. Like I say, you want to sit the bottleneck on the string, and to play a certain note, you want to stop on the fret, you know, on the steel bar that we call fret. When you play with your finger, you just you press the string right before it. With the slide, same note, it's not right before the fret, it's on the fret. So here we go. So it's D, G, A, sorry, let me start again, because otherwise you're gonna get confused, because I didn't say it right. So we start in D, G, D, A, then D again, G, D, A, D. So this is, we call this, I don't know how, you know, this is just the, you know, the song, it's the formula that's gonna repeat over and over and become a song. So again, so it's basically D, G, D, A, D, G, D, A, D. And then it starts again. There's a whole block of chord changes. So it basically goes like that. You don't have to play the little arpeggio. At first it might be hard. You can actually just strum. get your guitar tuning in open tuning and start having fun with it and enjoy your time with it. And the more you learn about it, the more enjoyable it's gonna be. And if your passion keeps going, you keep practicing, keep having fun with it, then music and your instrument is gonna be your best friend. They're gonna be with you when you're feeling good and having a good time. They're gonna be your best companions in those moments, and they're gonna be your best companion and your best friend through hard times. You know, we went through the pandemic. Now it looks like we are coming out of it, and I really gotta thank music, because it was with me. We were isolated, everybody was on lockdown, everybody was on quarantine, locked up in their house. And you know, I had my guitar and my music with me, and it helped me not only to pass the time, but also to like expel and express, you know, moments of, you know, sometimes, you know, moments of sadness, loneliness. You know, you don't feel good, and you get your instrument, you know, or you listen to the music, and it's gonna come out, and you know, you're gonna feel lighter and better after that. Like you talk to somebody, like you had like your best friend to talk to or something. And or like your best friend came and spent time with you and gave you a big old hug, and, you know, or some good advices, you know. It's just gonna make you feel better through hard times, sad times. Also, it is, you know, my job, you know, it's how I make a living, it's playing music. So I feel so confident that even if right now, you know, there is no gigs, there is no festivals, like it looks like there is very little ways for me as a guitar player, very little ways on how I can actually make a living. I know that with my guitar, with my music, I will find a way. Maybe I'll go back and play on the street when it's gonna be possible. Something, I will totally find a way. It makes me feel like very confident and safe to have my guitar and my music with me. Like I say, you know, I feel like that's what's gonna help me to get through hard times or get out of hard times. And that's gonna be, and also that's gonna be my best companion when everything is gonna be fine and we're gonna have a good time. I'm gonna have my guitar with me, and that's how I'm gonna have fun with other people, playing music, make them dance, you know, sending them home happy, you know, that night after, you know, finally we can play a concert. So I hope, you know, you found this of some inspiration to play slide guitar. And that's it. Enjoy, and all the best to everybody. Ciao, ciao. From Italy, from Livorno, and from Playing for Change. Bye bye.